think Sanders probably, because he is almost invulnerable here.
2020 candidate Bernie Sanders has the best shot at the Democratic nomination, and the press is beginning to take notice. So I have several headlines here to share with you, and the articles of all of them kind of summarize the same points, so I'm not really going to go over the details here on what they write, but the headlines kind of paint the picture. So this from Newsweek. Bernie Sanders has leaped to the top of 2020 Democratic polls over the past month. This from the Wall Street Journal. Be prepared for President Sanders. The Vermont socialist could soon become the front runner for the Democratic nomination. This from The Independent. Against all odds, it looks like Bernie Sanders might be the Democratic nominee after all. Biden and Buttigieg have split the center of the party, and polls show Democratic voters are unexpectedly looking for a much more progressive candidate. From CNN's Chris Cillizza. Bernie Sanders could actually win this thing. From Maddie Iglesias at Vox. Bernie Sanders can unify Democrats and beat Trump in 2020. This from Slate's podcast, What Next? Bernie could win this thing. Now tied for the lead in Iowa, how has the Sanders campaign made gains in the 2020 race? So they all kind of come to the same conclusion. Bernie Sanders has the most donations by far at 5 million. Nobody even comes close. Bernie Sanders has the most individual donors by far at almost 2 million. I don't even think any other campaign has hit 1 million, and Bernie Sanders hit 1 million individual donors back in September. He has the most volunteers, the most donors that are in Obama to Trump counties, so counties that voted for Obama twice and voted for Donald Trump in 2016. Bernie Sanders has the most donors in those counties by far. I mean, if you combine Biden and Warren's support in those counties, Bernie more than doubles them. So, look, if you're looking for somebody who's electable, it's Bernie Sanders. Hillary Clinton in 2016 lost to Donald Trump because she suppressed the Democratic base. She did not get enough typical non-voters out to vote, did not get enough young people out to vote, did not get enough independents. Bernie Sanders speaks to those people. As a lifelong independent himself, he speaks to many voters who feel disillusioned by this two-party system because Sanders has a history of standing up to the political establishment in both parties, has a history of standing up to the media establishment, to the corporate establishment. Bernie Sanders has a 40-year record of fighting for people and fighting against the powerful. You put that man on the ticket against Donald Trump, you were going to see a massive voter turnout. Now, that doesn't mean you can breathe easy, because this is still going to be a fight. I mean, the real fight, I think, is the primary. If Sanders wins the primary, I'm not that worried about the general election. But winning the primary is tough because a lot of states you have to be registered to be able to vote or participate in a primary or a caucus. So if you go to voteforbernie.org, FOR, I'll link to it below the video, you can click on your state and it tells you the deadline for registration, and basically what you need to know about your state, if it's a closed primary, if it's open primary, so you know if you need to be registered as a Democrat. But look, in most cases, just to be sure, you should register as a Democrat in your state, even if you don't feel like you're one. Do it for this, because I mean, you need, if you actually want to fight for policies that will lift people up and fight for a better America, you need to do it. You need to register as a Democrat to vote for Bernie Sanders and elect somebody that's actually going to fight for you. Now, let me, and not even just fight for you. Also, I mean, Bernie has the movement. This is also what's really important to point out here. Bernie Sanders mentions this himself. Even if he wins, he's not going to be able to get this done alone. It will require a political movement that is behind him. So he's building that right now during this campaign. And once he wins, he will use that movement to then put political pressure on various politicians to pass a progressive agenda that looks out for the people. So this Bernie Sanders campaign really is about the movement. It's not just about him. It's about the movement behind him, the people power that will be able to push this agenda through. But let me show you now a clip from CNN on, the same point here about Bernie Sanders and his chances. This is going to be David Axelrod, senior advisor to Barack Obama, and his thoughts about who's in the best position right now to win this nomination.
So let's talk more about the positioning that you just mentioned there, because this is, let's put up the CBS poll. Joe Biden is in a three-way tie with Bernie Sanders and Mayor Pete Buttigieg for first in Iowa. Whose position of those three would you rather be in?
That's really hard to say. I think Sanders probably because he is almost invulnerable here. He raised more money than anyone else. He's got a very committed core of supporters. He's going to do reasonably well in Iowa. He could win Iowa.
Didn't people write him off after the heart attack?
Yeah, they did. I mean, I think the thing that we relearn this lesson every 4 years, which is don't jump to any conclusions about Iowa or a presidential race too early. There are too many dynamics. Things change. He's come back smartly. Elizabeth Warren had some issues.
All right, so David Axelrod is not somebody who normally talks up Bernie's chances. So he's giving it his honest assessment here about the fact that Bernie is in the best position, at least in these early states, to eventually move towards a victory. Now, this is one of these things where it's been obvious the whole time. Like, I don't want to act like I saw it coming because it's not just me. If you watch other progressive YouTube shows, listen to other progressive podcasts, or read websites like Jacobin, I mean, we've all been saying this the entire time. But the media is just now catching on. And we didn't predict that Bernie was going to do well. We knew this because of the organization that he had built in 2016 and continued to build after 2016, and his ability to reach out to the typical non-voter, to young people. I mean, that's his strength. Independents, typical non-voters, young people. Now, of course, standard Democratic voters are also supporting him as well. But in order to win against Donald Trump, you need to bring out people that did not vote in 2016. You need to be able to excite people out to vote. If you have, say, Joe Biden as the nominee, that will suppress the base, suppress the Democratic vote, just like Hillary Clinton did. Because Joe Biden right now, I mean, he's using the same strategy that Hillary Clinton did in 2016 by trying to reach out to conservative voters. It's this old style Democratic strategy that has never worked. I mean, Hillary Clinton, John Kerry, Al Gore, you have to actually have a bold message, excite people out to vote to win. So this idea that you put a moderate on the ticket and somehow you're going to get Trump voters? Have you had any conversations with Trump voters? If they're still with Donald Trump, it's very unlikely they're going to come over. But even, I mean, that said, there's many, how do I phrase this? There's a lot of anecdotal evidence that Trump supporters, some of them, would have voted for Bernie Sanders if he was on the ticket. But if they are still Trump supporters, those people, I think it's unlikely they're going to come over now. But a lot of those people now are kind of, that voted for Trump and are unhappy with Donald Trump. They want someone they can actually feel good about voting for. And they have that in Bernie Sanders, and another anti-establishment candidate, a populist, a real populist, someone that actually wants to help people. He's still sort of an outsider. Yes, he's been in politics for 40 years, but he's an outsider in the sense that, the political establishment, the media establishment, the corporate establishment have always been against him. So he's always been fighting back against the forces in Washington and has been on the side of the people while doing that. So you put someone like that on the ticket. I mean, put aside the potential, one or two Trump voters that may come out, but the ability to reach people, the young people, the independents that did not come out in 2016, that is his strength. So again, this is not over. Bernie's doing well right now. The numbers look good for him in the polling, but it will require you to get involved. Volunteer, phone bank, donate, whatever you can do. Get involved. Ensure that Bernie Sanders becomes the nominee.